Hello, fellow old schoolers. So here we are. Old Gandalf the Dark has gone through the portal and is at Dominia-day, dully awed by being at the oldest old school tournament in the country. It's the first time I'm here, actually, for some reason. And they've changed the rules up a bit over the years. So this is going to be a pretty different experience. I'm coming in without the trusty composition A at my side. Let's go over the rules of this gig. And if you want to go straight to the action, I'll put down a timestamp here where you can just skip over this entire introduction and go straight to the games. For now, as usual, I'm going to ramble on a bit about first how the tournament is organized and the rules, and then I'm going over my deck for this particular event and the thought process behind it. And it's going to take a short while, so feel free to skip it if that's not your thing. But in general, the tournament was set up that players got points according to their position in the top 8, with the winner of the tournament getting 8 points. And besides from that, there were multiple ways of gaining side event points. These were, amongst others, the guy who was the guy with the most legends, the guy who was highest placed with the biggest creatures, the guy with the most creatures, the guy with the highest placed Swedish legal deck, the guy with the most green cards in the deck, and the highest placed mono-colored deck, and the highest placed non-powered deck. And you could only win 3 of these sub-tournaments, and each one would give you 2 points. So in essence, when everything was calculated, it was entirely possible for someone outside the top 8 to gain entrance into the top 8 after the entire tournament was over, just from these extra points. And you could also get points for having the most spicy brew, and you would win those points through a vote from all the participants. So I'm bringing something different than my usual 4-color Dead Guy Ale deck, the composition A here. I've played the composition A in the last 2 tournaments I attended, and I wanted to try something different. Also, the philosophy of this event was a bit more soft brewing, so I didn't want to just be that guy that came in with a fully powered spiky deck at that event. And I'm fully aware that there would be some people that would have fully powered tournament decks at this event as well, because making a new deck on the fly in old school is very hard. Many people don't have the collection for it, and it's very expensive. So, and I don't as well, so I had to borrow a bunch of cards from different people, and so thank you for that. I wouldn't be able to make this deck without those. So here is the deck. It's a monocolored green Stompy deck. So immediately I'm trying to get in to as many sub-tournaments as I can reasonably be at. I'm running monocolored, so if I'm placing the highest monocolored deck at the tournament, I'll win some points for that. It's Swedish legal, so that immediately puts a restraint on how I can build this deck. I have a bunch of small critters in the deck, so I can win for most creatures. It's non-powered, so if I'm the highest placed non-powered deck, that'll net me a few points. And I also wanted to compete for the most green cards in the deck. And in order to make all this work, I really had to make a deck with a very, very small mana curve, just so I could cram as many green cards and as many creatures into it as I possibly could make function, within the parameters of it still being Swedish legal, of course. So this deck has an overall strategy of soft card advantage. As we see here, mono green has a very weak draw engine. I have compared with the composition A, I don't have many ways of gaining the upper hand through card advantage. So instead, I'm going for the soft card advantage thing. And I've gone over that concept in a previous recording, but briefly here, in essence, there are two types of card advantage. There's the hard card advantage, and that's what people usually refer to when they talk about card advantage. That means drawing more cards than your opponent, essentially. You can do that with Yime-Day tomes, blue power, and stuff like that. The soft card advantage is not drawing more cards, but drawing better cards. And the classical old school cards for this is the Sylvan Library, for example, that will make you shift through the top 3 cards of your deck and picking the one you like the most. You can also use Yarlum Tome, draw a card and then discard a card for cheaper mana than what the Yime-Day Tome costs. And land tags can be used for mono white to siphon basic lands out of the deck, thereby reducing the probability of you drawing lands later on in the game. And whereas the Ancestral Recall is the epitome of hard card advantage, Demonic Tutor is the epitome of soft card advantage, as you just shift a card for the best card of the situation. Another way, and the most basic way to get a soft card advantage, is having a very low mana curve like this deck here. There are only 13 basic forests in the deck, and combined with the elves, Llanowar elves and elves of the Deep Shadow, that is enough. The deck can function just fine with only a single forest out, and providing that forest doesn't get land destructed, of course, and then play all its cards. And later on in the game, you'll just tend to draw more and more creatures. Thus, the strategy is to overwhelm the opponent through small critters alone. And there's a Pendlehaven for that. I have 3 in this deck that can provide a nice boost to 1/1 creatures, and everything else is just a horde of small critters. Scavenger folks to destroy artifacts. Naf's Asp is a nice 1-drop that does damage to the opponent, and he has to pay a single colorless mana in his upkeep or take another point of damage. We have the mana ramp from the elves that will stabilize the deck even though it has such few mana sources as it has. And we have Script Sprites and Whirling Dervishes, and of course the 4 factories. Blocking factories will be a huge problem here, so we have Ice Storms in order to negate those, also to negate Maces of Ith, and there's a Crumble in the main deck as well, and a bunch of Crumbles in the sideboard. So I'm also using Giant Growth and Berserks in order to sometimes be able to make a huge kill in one fell swoop with one of the creatures. Giant Growth can also be used as removal. And there's a Hurricane in there to provide some additional burn effect to finish the game fast, or in the late game, because mono green actually lacks a lot of removal here. So the Hurricane will help with that. In the sideboard we have the 1/1 Dryads. They have Forest Walk, and I put them in there in order to have something against the mirror matchup, as I expected that there would be a lot of green decks out there. And I had to compete with them in order to get ahead in the mono deck category, and in the category of having the most green cards and the most creatures. So if I had the cards, I would have a full playset of Dryads in the deck, but I only had 2 beta available, so that's what we're running with here. There's also the trick of using City in a Bottle that will provide a nice leg up against some of the more expensive decks out there with Urnamgens, Dusamgens, Serendipity Freaks, etc. So that's the strategy. There is no ambition to win the tournament with this setup, but it can pack a punch, and I'm trying to get, if not in the top 8, then at least sufficiently close that all the other categories might push me up to being in the top 8, but it's far from given. I've never actually piloted a mono green deck before, so I'm going in without any experience in that department. But it seems fun, and it's a break from tradition here. We're diving deep into the mysterious realm of green magic here, and a foul necromancer is stepping up as our first opponent. So let's go to the first match. And it's a mono black prison deck that is on the right here with a Mind Twist and a Sinkhole, and the forest with the horde of green critters is on the left. That's the forest, starting out with the green snake, the Naf's Asp, and I spoke about that in the introduction to the deck. Second black mana source and sinkholing the forest. So there are land destruction elements in the black deck. Snake coming over, biting in, and poisoning the necromancer. So he has to pay a colorless mana in his upkeep to negate the poison. Or he'll take another point of damage. There's a Pendelhaven and a Script Sprite. It'll be very, very hard for him to land destruct me out like this, I think, because of the low mana cost of the deck. But then again, I don't have many lands in the deck, so yeah, there goes the second one. So there might be a dry spell here where I won't get any lands. Okay, there's a factory there, and they're coming over for another swing. And actually, the Naf's Asp is an excellent opening creature here because he takes 2 points of damage, because otherwise it will just lock his early mana down, and it could be half his mana for this turn that would had to be used to negate the snake's poison. Oh, there's a Hypnotic Spectre though. It's bigger than my creatures. Fourth land drop. Pretty lucky, but no green mana. There are 2 factories though. I need to end the game fast. I'll run out of steam otherwise. Coming over with the factory, he might want to trade it, and even if you don't, I've got nothing better to do. And I don't need 2 factories. I need a forest. So he comes over with the Spectre, and the Script Sprite stands in the way, getting plucked out of the air. Oh, and then he Mind Twists me. Beautiful Mind Twist, by the way. 3 cards. Ouch. That's the power of black magic. 2 Script Sprites and a Strip Mine. That's my entire Air Force gone at this point, I suppose. Coming over everything here as a counterattack. And the thing is, I can't really recuperate cards that he takes this way, so I'll run out of steam soon. But there is that soft card advantage I talked about. So if only I get a green mana, I'll be getting, there's a library gone, but I'll be drawing into more and more creatures during the game, hopefully. There's an Icy Manipulator. I wonder if he plays with Royal Assassins here. Okay, so he ices the factory in my upkeep, so I can't use it and I can't attack with it. And I can't activate the other factory with it. It does seem like I have a land here. Yeah, there's the forest. Now we can get stuff out. Really considering what to do here. Putting out a Scavenger Folk and then attacking with the snake, and that can sacrifice itself to destroy an artifact, so I guess it has the Icy Manipulator's number right here. And he uses one of his swamps to pay for the poison from that Naf's Asp, so it has already really, really been efficient in this game. But he has enough mana now, so it doesn't have that much of an impact anymore. So he's at a bit of a situation here. He could continue to attack, hoping to draw out. Yeah, he does. So here, draw out my creatures. That's the 4th Script Sprite gone. Oh man. But it will open him up for more attacks. Oh no, a second factory. And then he taps probably my factory. Yeah, in my upkeep. And those spectres, they're just barely stronger than my creatures, so I need a giant growth or something here in order to remove them. Okay, so we're getting rid of the Icy Manipulator with the Scavenger Folk. No? Okay. I suppose I'm opting to wait here. And I believe that the black deck here, he plays unpowered as well, and he's a mono-colored, mono-black. So we are actually rivals in some of the same sub-tournaments here. trying to... we only get points if we are the most successful monocolored deck and the most successful non-powered. Otherwise it will all have been for naught and we won't get any points. So here he comes, 2 Spectres in. Okay, I'm a glutton for the pain here. Again, there's not much removal in green, so I have to make one of the Spectres go berserk here, taking 6 points of damage in the process. There's a winter-orb. I don't mind the winter-orb that much, actually. But it does, I suppose it does hold my factories back here. Yeah, I gotta get rid of the icy, actually. He can make a combination here where he taps his winter-orb before it's his turn and it won't affect him. So he taps my factory, and there's a revenge bite from the green snake there. Yeah, he has to pay, that's actually pretty nice. He has to pay a black mana in order to negate the damage from it, and the winter orb will only allow him to untap a single land. Oh, he tutors here. But otherwise that Nasasp, if he keeps paying for it, it'll lock him out of any untapped phase because of that winter orb. I wonder if there's a tech there, if I should play with winter orb myself. The tiny Stompy deck is so small in its mana cost. There's this icy manipulator. It's so small in its mana cost that he'll have a hard time in trying to capture it in his prison with those winter orbs and ices. Using a dark ritual and getting the icy manipulator out. So now he has that combination going again. Icy manipulator, winter orb. And the winter orb is holding my factories back still. Another scavenger folk. That's a pretty lucky top deck draw here. He's considering whether to attack, but he chooses not to. I think that's the correct play. He's only at 6 life. So I'm cracking his icy, and he taps his winter orb, as he has the Spectre now to block my Asp. But I can attack with the factory though. So he takes it on the chin, getting down to 4 points of life here, but he gets an entire untapped phase back. I'm not sure if he plays with vampires, but if you do, or even worse, nightmares, I'll be screwed. He plays an Ankh of Mishra though, and I'm not bothered by that at all. I'm sufficiently mana fixed after 1 or 2 land drops actually. But still attacking with everything. I forgot to take damage from that Ankh of Mishra there, but he's at 1 point of life. I should be at 6 point here. And then he concedes the game. It doesn't matter with that forgotten damage because he was dead by then. He could only block with a single factory and that with a single hypnotic spectre, and whatever got in would kill him. So the first game is a match for the tiny Stompy deck. Now we are sideboarding here. And the second round of this set, it didn't record properly at the beginning. So I'm slowly going over here what had happened. He started off with a Dark Ritual into Hypnotic Spectre turn 1. That was a bit of a disaster, and he got in for a poke, discarding my factory. I got out a Llanowar Elf and counter-attacked him once. Then I got out a Script Sprite, and with the Pendelhaven I could keep him back because I could make the Script Sprite into a 2/3 flyer. But then he put Evil Presence on my Pendelhaven, thus making it a swamp. Then he attacked with the Spectre. I blocked with the Script Sprite, sacrificing it because I had a Hurricane in hand. And then I Hurricaned for 2 points of damage, killing the Spectre and doing 2 damage to the both of us. So the situation here is he has a couple of swamps, and I have 2 forests and a Pendelhaven covered in swampy filth. And here he has put out a Relic Barrier, and that can be used to tap artifacts. So he can tap his own Winter Orbs with that and his own Ankh of Mishra, etc. And they won't work in his turn. And he can also tap my factories. So, and I think he actually killed the elf I put out. I'm not sure how, perhaps a Terra. He has sideboarded those in. So round 2 after sideboard. Putting down a 3rd forest here. And then I'm sinkholing one of his swamps and getting out another elf. That was payback for ruining my pretty Pendelhaven. Another forest and a scavenger folk. And I think I've emptied my hand at this point. That's a dark Underworld Dreams in his hand. That's all a part of his prison deck. Surprised he plays it here. He should probably play the Hypnotic Spectre in his hand instead in order to keep me back. Sinkholing another swamp here. Trying to menace. Now it's my turn to try and menace starve him. But yes, Dark Rituals, he doesn't care. There's the Hypnotic Spectre. So now I'm in trouble. I can't get in, and that Underworld Dreams is starting to give me nightmares. And that's ass, but all my creatures are 1/1, and that Pendelhaven, it's useless. I can't. If only I had that in. If you hadn't played that Evil Present, the board state would be entirely different. There's a Chaos Orb though. Okay, that's pretty important actually. Very important drop here. Holding our breath. This could make it or break it in terms of the game. And it's a hit. That's the Dead Spectre. So now that's an open field and the Horde is getting in. Nafzav's poisoning him again. A rush of small critters, and he pays to negate the poison from an asp, only having 2 swarms ready. And now it's my turn attacking again. And he terrors the Nafzav's. Putting down another Hypnotic Spectre. That's a problem. The Relic Barrier does nothing for him here, but that single Spectre can keep me at bay until I draw a Giant Growth or a Hurricane. Passing the turn, I can't get in, and that Underworld Dreams has 2 Underworld Dreams now. Uh-oh, going to 10 life here. That's the Whirling Dervish. It has protection from black though, so he can't block it unless he gets a factory, and he can't kill it with anything but a Chaos Orb in this deck. And each time it damages him, the Whirling Dervish grows. He'll just get more horses in the Horde. That's a winter-orb. I'm surprised he hasn't sideboarded those out, but perhaps he doesn't know my deck at this point. He doesn't know if I'm mid-range or that I'm actually just a tiny rush deck like this. So the Whirling Dervish, man, it can get straight in. And he still has to keep the Spectre back. Okay, but I still elect to attack though. Perhaps I have a Giant Growth, or perhaps I'm bluffing. Oh, I'm bluffing. Damn it. I figured that he would be too scared to let me get in with a Giant Growth. But he wasn't, so he just blocked me and killed the creature. But it's also a rush here. I have to get him out before those Underworld Dreams kill me. And at some point he'll start attacking with that Spectre and can finish the game with that. But there's those Elf of the Dark Shadow. Yeah, here he comes. Picking a card. This one? Yeah, that's a forest. I'm keeping those in hand so he doesn't know if I have a Giant Growth, and also to bait him into attacking with that Spectre there. Hoping for, I don't know if I sideboarded Tranquilities in, that would be good. Oh, I put down another Pendelhaven. Because it's a legendary land, the original Pendelhaven will get destroyed. That's a nice way to get rid of that evil presence. So now I can get in, pumping the creatures. He's at 2 points of life here. Huge attack. Oh, but he attacks back, and now I'm at 2 points of life. There's a Mace of Ith. Now we can, and then he sinkholes the Pendelhaven. And I just die in my draw step. Talking about taking your own medicine here, dying to Underworld Dreams like this. But it's the power of black. So, final and deciding round of this first set of the tournament between these unpowered mono decks here. It does surprise me that I'm struggling this much against him, because it's not a good omen for my deck, because it should be a good matchup. Okay, I'll have difficulties stopping his Spectres, so turn 1 Underworld Dreams, but still, I mean, all those prison elements of his deck and all his land destruction, Underworld Dreams, stuff like that, it's not built to against a deck like mine. My deck is my creatures are too small, my mana base is too easy to get mana fixed, so it'll be incredibly hard for him to hold me back in a prison. just because of the low mana curve. But if he gets a big beater out, I'll be in trouble. So, starting off with a couple of elf and a whirling dervish. Those whirling dervish are very good in this matchup. It's an unfortunate glare right there, but that's the thing with these kind of tournaments. You can't predict that, and the tables are set up the way they are. I tried to shut out some of the light, but there was no difference from that. So there's an Underworld Dreams on me, and now we're attacking him. Giant Growth, Berserk. Oh, another Berserk. That's insane. That's 4, 8, 16 points of damage from that she-elf right there. And then another 2, that's 18. Yeah, he should be at 2 life though. Okay, but yeah, it's a lot of damage. 16 from her and 2 points of damage from the other 2. So 18 points of damage in one go. That's one angry elf going berserk twice. So he's at 3 points of life here. And staring down that whirling dervish. There's an icy manipulator though. Oh, but he doesn't have the mana. And the thing under that glare is an Anchor of Mishra, so he can't put down a land either. That's game. I have a regrowth again. So, but he can't tap with the icy, and that's it. Tiny Stompy wins it. 2-1. Close match though. Close set. The final game with that berserking elf. Excellent. I'm really looking forward to see how this deck functions further on in the tournament. But the longer we get into it and the higher we get, the more the risk of running into some of the huge predators of this tournament is. And there are some fully powered tournament decks that will likely just flatten the tiny Stompy. But we'll see. Next match coming up, and after that, I will be looking into some of the other matchups that was at this tournament with other players than me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.